All right, let's get more on this, our main story this hour, that is the Senate Judicial Committee. Jocelyn Frye is a senior fellow at the Center for American Progress, and she used to be the Director of Policy and Special Projects for the former First Lady, Michelle Obama. Thank you for joining us. Firstly, I just wanted to get your take. Critics have said that the Democrats have delayed this process, and actually it's had a negative impact on Dr. Blasey Ford. What do you make of that? Was this even the right forum for this?
Well, I think that criticism is a little unfair. Dr. Blasey Ford wanted to remain confidential. She wanted to figure out a way to tell her story, but do so in a way that protected her privacy. And she, for reasons that were not in her control, her privacy was violated. And I think, now the real question is how to make sure that the process is fair and to not really point fingers at who's to blame. I think, quite frankly, the process in terms of the nomination was broken long before Dr. Blasey Ford came forward, and there has been extreme partisanship on the committee for a while. So now the real focus should be on trying to make sure that the best information is put before the committee.
What did you make of the process? I mean, it was so emotional, so emotionally charged, but we did see the Republicans, they would say, they made an effort to make sure that she was treated fairly.
Well, I think she had an opportunity to present her testimony, which was important. But I think overall, the process was woefully inadequate. When you look back to the 1991 hearings involving AnitaHill and Clarence Thomas, the process was far more robust than what the leadership did this time around. Dr. Blasey Ford was given an opportunity to speak, but there really wasn't an effort to provide opportunities for additional witnesses or experts who could bolster her testimony. And the process was rushed. They have, tried to push forward at breakneck speed, even before all the documents were provided and before an investigation could be done. So I think the process has left something to be desired, and it's hurt the overall process, and it impaired Dr. Blasey Ford's opportunity to be heard appropriately.
It's interesting that you make the comparison to the AnitaHill case. I mean, I was listening back to some of her testimony just the other day, and the questions that were put to her, a lot of people would say so degrading, so dismissive of her account of what happened. That didn't happen today. We heard Rachel Mitchell, that was the prosecutor who the Republicans put forward so that she didn't have to face a panel entirely made up of white males, begin by saying, "I'm sorry that you were so terrified."
Well, I think that, the prosecutor in this case is an experienced prosecutor who works on sexual assault cases. However, I think this is not a courtroom. This is the Senate Judiciary Committee, and every member of that committee has an obligation to understand the witnesses coming before them and engage on the substance. That's why they're elected. So I think what we saw from the male members in the majority is really a refusal to engage Dr. Blasey Ford directly at all.
So sorry to interrupt you. Do you think it would have been better if she would have faced questions from Republican members of the Senate directly?
I think it would have been better in terms of them having to respond to her directly. I mean, they basically ignored her. And I think what you saw is they had somebody else do their work for them. And then when Judge Kavanaugh came before them, they had no problem with engaging with him directly and talking about his pain and his experiences. So I think it was fairly dismissive of Dr. Blasey Ford in just a different way than they treated AnitaHill.
One of the things that really stands out from the AnitaHill case is just how vilified she was afterwards, both by wider society and also within her own community as well. What would you like to see in place now for Dr. Blasey Ford to make sure that she is not re-traumatized like that?
Well, I think she spoke herself about the tremendous support that she's received from people across the country, and I hope she continues to get that support. She is a survivor of sexual assault, and that's important for any survivor. But I think the other larger issue here is to also be treated with respect and credibility by the committee itself. And I think that, quite frankly, the process did not treat her well.
And just, sorry to interrupt you, ma'am. Just very briefly, what do you think has changed for the better, and what do you think really hasn't changed at all since that AnitaHill case?
Well, I think what's changed is that there's an incredible amount of attention on this issue. Women across the country and men are concerned about this issue. But what hasn't changed is really how the committee ultimately handled this type of an issue. There were members on this committee who were dismissive of her, who said she was confused and mixed up. I feel insufficient progress on these issues.
All right, Jocelyn Frye, we're going to leave it there. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us. Jocelyn Frye speaking to us from Washington. Thank you.